McClutchan was up here from South Carolina, and she spoke both a Saturday night and then also Sunday morning with us as a church family. And she is someone that struggles with bipolar, and she's also a spiritual life coach as well. And for those, again, her book that she talked about at the time is coming out within the next few days, also already been shipped. And so we'll have those at the church for you soon as well. But you remember that night that she talked, she mentioned NAMI several times. And in South Carolina, she does a lot of work with the NAMI organization. And through that connection with her is how Jennifer and I hooked up and started hanging out and talking. I think to her dismay, she's been stuck having coffee with me about once every month and a half. You guys know how I am about that, even though I can't stand coffee. And I don't know, it's not too super long ago, maybe within the last couple of months, she brought up this particular presentation, and I was excited to be a part of that. So I'm excited. She has been here once before, but this is the first time speaking here, so I'm very happy to be able to introduce Jennifer Jeanette to you. She's our executive director of NAMI over Marion County and Crawford County, correct? Okay, so see, I'm not completely useless. So I'm going to let her come up and take over the microphone. So you can say, yay, Jennifer.
For having me. Oh, I'm working. There I am. Thank you for having me. I am so thankful to be here. NAMI, we have Becky with NAMI as well. So when I refer to we, throughout the presentation, it's all of us at NAMI. And tonight, too, it's Emily along with us. Thank you, Emily. Emily is volunteered to tell her personal story about mental illness after this part. And so we appreciate that. Thank you so much, Emily. All right, so let's get started. What is ending the silence? So what we're going to talk about tonight is understanding mental illness, mental health, change our perception, hopefully our misconceptions, and talk about ending the silence around mental illness. We want to talk about it. We want to understand it. We don't want to feel silenced. One thing you do need to know with NAMI, I am not a psychiatrist. I am not even a social worker. My degree is in business. But here I am because I have my own lived experience. And because of my own lived experience, I advocate and talk about mental illness and do things like this. And I come along with the business part to be the executive director, but my passion is being a mental health advocate. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to watch a video, and it's going to explain a little bit more about what mental health is. So if we can go to the video, and I'll get out of the way.
So first of all, you probably know someone who's living with depression, PTSD, generalized anxiety disorder,
OCD or bipolar 1 or 2.
Regardless of whether or not you live with a mental health condition, we all have mental health. And so it is so imperative that we start prioritizing our mental health just as much as we do our physical health.
It can be on a spectrum. You can be in a really good position with your mental health or in a struggling position with your mental health. Either way, we all have it and it's totally normal.
Taking care of our mental health ensures that we are able to live productive and happy lives.
Okay. So not only is it about mental illness, but it's just about everybody's mental health and taking care of yourself. By the show of hands, how many in here know someone who has a mental health condition? Okay. So look around. Let's keep our hands up for just a second. Look around. The fact is, though, if someone living with a mental health condition, a lot of times, but when you look around, you see everybody raising your hands, and so you're not alone. It's just we're not talking about it. We got to talk about it so we don't feel so alone. Okay, so what does it mean to have mental health? So we all experience mental health every day. Being mentally healthy means being able to enjoy life. It means feeling good about the day. It means being able to handle normal stresses and not becoming overwhelmed. It's important for us to provide ourselves self-care so that we can keep our mental health at a healthy place. I don't know about you all, but I know if I overextend myself, I work too many hours, or I have overcommitments, I start to feel like my mental health is not in the best place that it could be at. And so it's important for us to recognize those things within ourselves. It's different for everyone, but taking care of your mental health is just like taking care of your physical health. So what are mental health conditions? So mental health conditions are medical illnesses like any other physical illness. And it's not anyone's fault, and it's not something to be ashamed of. Anyone can have a mental health condition. A mental health condition doesn't have to limit your ability to have a meaningful life or achieve your goals. And I think this is so important because for so long, we don't want to talk about if we're struggling or if we're having a hard time or tell someone. But you know, if you have a cold, you go to the doctor. But if you have anxiety, a lot of times you don't want to say anything. And they're equally important and equally able to be discussed. So here's some facts. And this presentation is factual about youth, and it is directed towards youth, but I see a lot of folks here too that aren't youth, and that's great because we need to understand what our teens are going through and understand symptoms and indicators so that if we see something going on or they need support, and we do have a couple teens in the audience tonight, we're prepared and we're ready to help. So here's some facts. 1 in 6 youth in the U.S. are experiencing or will experience a mental health condition at some point in their lives. So 1 in 6. And that could be anything and everything. Something like depression, anxiety. It could be possibly schizophrenia, bipolar, but this is including all mental health conditions. And 50% of youth ages 8 to 15 with a mental health condition do not receive treatment. The biggest reason people do not seek help is because of stigma. Do you understand what stigma is? I assume you do, but stigma, especially with mental illness, that's why people are afraid to talk about it. You know, I know when I was a teenager, I didn't want to be different. I didn't want to talk about my anxiety. I didn't want to talk about panic attacks. I didn't even know that they were panic attacks because I didn't tell anybody, and I didn't go to the doctor until it became so evident that I had no choice. But I didn't want to be different than my friends, so I didn't want to talk about it. Everybody just seems happy, so you assume everybody's happy. And then what's happening is you're feeling alone, and if we could share or make it aware, then we would know that other people are feeling the same way. So because we want to be understanding if someone is experiencing a mental illness, it's very important how we talk about it. So instead of saying someone, I don't know if somebody would say this, but we're going to use this for example, they have a brain disorder. So instead of that, they have a mental health condition. The weather is bipolar. So sometimes like in our casual conversations, I think we're all guilty of this, to say, that's insane, or that's crazy. And we just ask to be careful about that, because if there's someone that is living with a mental illness and they hear you say that, it could make them uncomfortable, or it sounds derogatory. So we want to be careful. So the weather is bipolar. Instead, we could say the weather is unpredictable. I really like this one, and I think this one is really important. So instead of saying, my daughter is schizophrenic, you can say, my daughter has schizophrenia. If someone has cancer, you don't say, my daughter is cancer. My daughter is living with battling cancer. You know, it's the same thing. So we don't want to identify that that's who she is. She's schizophrenic. Well, she's a lot of other things as well. So living with schizophrenia, or has schizophrenia is a better way to say it. We want to refrain from calling people like a consumer, a client, or a patient, and instead a person living with a mental health condition. And suffers from, afflicted with, or mentally ill, we could say lives with or has or experiences. I find that lives with feels right and is receptive. He lives with schizophrenia because it's true. They live with it. They don't, it's not who they are. Okay, so next up. It's a video.
Unfortunately, there is a lot of stigma surrounding mental health. Stigma is a negative association to something. One of the
Technical difficulty. Just a moment. Okay.
best ways that we can get rid of it is by having open and honest conversations surrounding mental health.
And it's important that we realize that we have the power to decrease and end the stigma. This will allow for us to feel safer and to feel better about reaching out for help and actually feeling heard and seen and knowing that we're not alone.
Thank you. Okay, so we've talked about what mental health is, what mental illness is, and now we're going to move into sometimes we need to know some warning signs. So when something's not going quite right and we need to be aware of what to look for. Okay, so knowing the warning signs. So if you yourself or someone that you love is feeling very sad or withdrawn for more than 2 weeks, it's normal for us all to have periods of time where we're sad or we've gone through something and we feel a little down or we just feel like we just can't quite shake it. But if we're looking at more than 2 weeks, then it's time that you start thinking, okay, is everything okay here? Just kind of put yourself on alert with either yourself or your loved one. If they seem like severely out of control, risk-taking behaviors that cause harm to self or others, that's a major warning sign. Something's not right. Something's going on, and again, we're going to talk about what you can do, but it's something that you need to pay attention to. Sometimes this can even be not so obvious. Sometimes even like shopping, over shopping, just doing things in excess that the person wouldn't typically do before. So it can be lots of different things. I know my daughter lives with bipolar. With psychotic features, and one of the things that she would do is she would go off by herself and almost, I want to say, forage. So, and it wasn't safe because she would be along the road or at a reservoir, and just in situations it could put her at risk. She would go off by herself and come back with like pine cones and then she wouldn't, it was just, again, you just notice the behavior changes and it's different. And this is when it becomes something to say, what's going on here? Is something going on? Another sudden overwhelming fear for no reason, sometimes with a racing heart, physical discomfort, or fast breathing. If there's not a reason. And sometimes my reason for being scared is personal and it's different than yours, but if it seems overly exaggerated or inappropriate, let's say an inappropriate response to what's happening, that's reason for concern. Seeing, hearing, or believing things that aren't real. If someone is, I'm working with a family right now, her young adult son, within the last short period, she would hear him having conversations in the other room, and at first she thought he was on the phone or maybe talking with someone, but he wasn't. He was by himself. And he was obviously experiencing an onset of a mental illness. So this is definitely something, again, if this would happen or occur, if you yourself notice that you're hearing voices, or if someone you love is talking to someone that's not there, or they speak about hearing a voice talking to them, that's something to be aware of. The last thing we're going to talk about is drastic changes is mood, behavior, personality, or sleeping habits. If someone is staying up for 3 days at a time and then sleeping for 4 days at a time, it's all about out of the ordinary behavior. So it's not something they've typically done in the past or yourself. These are things for yourself to be aware of too. If you're noticing patterns that are different, it might be something to be concerned about. Okay, so we have a couple more warning signs that are more specific. So those were more general. So extreme difficulty concentrating or staying still that puts a person in physical danger or causes school failure. You know, all of us have different energy levels, and sometimes day to day we have different energy levels. But this is, again, something that's excessive. Physical danger, and we have in here school failure too. So if it's such a disruption to the school day because you can't, your child or yourself cannot sit still, it's something to make a note of. Intense worries or fears that get in the way of daily activities. This can look like lots of different things. I once knew somebody like that was really overly worried about tornadoes. So whenever it would rain, it's like they didn't want to go anywhere and it's like, what is the likeliness of a tornado to hit us? It's not super likely, but that fear was real to her, and it scared her, and it affected her life where she didn't want to leave the house if it was raining. Just an example. Okay, throwing up, using laxatives, or not eating to lose weight, significant weight loss or weight gain, reason for concern. And these, a lot of people forget that these symptoms of what we just talked about, throwing up or not eating, it is related to mental illness. So it's something that needs to be treated as a mental illness. So if you are experiencing this, or if you see someone, you need to talk to someone. Using alcohol or drugs excessively, trying to harm oneself, attempting suicide, or making plans to do so. So if you or someone you know is experiencing any of these symptoms of these mental health conditions, it's important to tell someone, and don't keep warning signs a secret. I will share too that when I was in high school, my best friend started cutting, and I didn't even know what cutting was at that time in my life. But I knew it wasn't good. And if you're not familiar with what cutting is, I don't know if everybody is. It's just literally just cutting. It could be different parts of your body, but causing pain, possibly cuts that need medical attention. But I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything to anybody. There wasn't a lot of awareness, and I'm a little older, so the stigma was way worse even then. You just didn't talk about it. You just kept it private. Okay, we're going to have another video.
I was scared to talk to my friends and my family because I didn't know how they would react. I didn't want to push them in a corner of, oh, this is what you have to say, or make them think I was doing something for attention. So I didn't get help for a while, and I tried to manage my symptoms on my own, but you know, my symptoms didn't go away. They fluctuated since then. I can remember the day where it hit me so hard that it felt just like a physical, like, ugh, I'm 14 and I feel like 60 at this point. Like the world is just weighing on me and I just don't know what to do with it. I need to tell someone.
Okay, so what can you do? So what can you do if you start seeing these things or experiencing yourself? So if you're a child or a teen, you can talk to a trusted adult. More than one if necessary. Sometimes we go to someone and they are not taking it seriously. You might need to go to a second one. And I know it's really uncomfortable and difficult, but it's important, and it can be, you know, with your help, a journey to getting better, getting the treatment and medication or therapy, whatever is needed. You can talk to a friend. So if it's you yourself experiencing these signs, you could talk to a friend, and then you can also send a message to someone who cares about you. So whether that be another parent, a family member, a pastor, or just a teacher, it could be whoever is trusted. And so what do you say? I haven't felt like myself lately and I don't know what to do. Can I talk to you about it? I'm worried about stuff that's going on right now. Do you have time to talk? I'm really having a hard time. Will you go with me to see someone? The most important thing if someone talks to you about something that they're struggling with is to be their friend. And sometimes it's good if you observe something in someone to bring it up to them in a nice but gentle way. Just, you know, I notice you're been not sleeping much lately. I'm worried for you. Is it a good way to just bring it up? Let's talk about it with someone. Would you like me to go with you to a support group or a meeting? And then also it's really important just yourself to learn more about mental illness. If you have someone in your family, that has a diagnosis, one of the best things you can do is educate yourself about the mental illness, so you can understand more of what they're experiencing and how you can support them. And I will do a little shout out to NAMI right now because we do have family support group and family-to-family classes, and those classes really help those around someone who's living with mental illness learn about their illness and how to communicate with someone that's experiencing this. We want to remember it's not a choice. Having a mental health condition or a mental illness is not a choice. It's no one's fault. It just happens sometimes. So know the warning signs of suicide. Someone needs immediate attention if they are talking, writing, or drawing about death, talking about having no reason to live, being a burden to others, not being here tomorrow, looking for ways to attempt suicide, feeling hopeless, desperate, or trapped, giving away possessions, behaving recklessly. And I know it's hard to say something because you don't know how it's going to impact that person's life. But what if you don't say something and then something happens? So it's much more important to go ahead and say something. We always think, well, that's not really going to happen. Just like my friend in high school, I was like, well, she's cutting herself, but she's not going to do anything more. Well, she didn't, and I was lucky she didn't. But you just never know when that person is going to do something. And so no matter how uncomfortable it is, it's time to take action if you're noticing any of these things here. So what can you do? Take warning signs seriously. Take action immediately. And I've even had to say this to somebody here recently because of things that they were saying. It was an acquaintance, actually a work acquaintance, because it's super awkward. You know, it's just awkward, and you know it is. It's uncomfortable. But because of the way they were talking, I had to ask them, "Are you safe?" "What do you mean, are you safe?" I need to know if you are thinking about suicide." Yes, they were. "And do you have a plan?" You know, all these things, and it's just asking that question. He may not have said anything or talked about it. We were able to get him into I helped him get connected with a therapist, and we were able to get him in very quickly. But just sometimes you need to ask, "Are you okay?" You know, we were talking about this at the walk with Whirlpool. You know, you just never know. You can't be sure, so you just need to ask. What else can you do? Does everybody here know about 988? Please tell me everybody here knows about 988. If you don't, I'm going to tell you anyways. So 988 is a number you can call. Anyone can call any time of the day, any day of the week, to talk to someone. It can be you personally that are experiencing a mental health issue, or it can just be somebody in your family. You can even call if you don't know if you're experiencing a mental health issue. You just know you need to talk to someone. They're there to talk to you, and you can call. You can call if you're worried about. I could have called for my friend. He said this. I'm concerned. You know, I could get advice on how to help him. So anyone, anytime you need to, call 988. You can also take yourself, if it's you, or who you're concerned about, to the emergency room. If someone is actively suicidal, they're talking about suicide. I've been in this position with my own daughter. Before I was involved with NAMI and before I knew about all these resources, I didn't know I could call 911. I had no idea that I could, because she wasn't in the active moment of attempting. You can still call 911 if someone's speaking of it and you think they're serious, and they're going to help you. We have officers. Another program NAMI does and has here in Marion Crawford County is CIT, Crisis Intervention Training. We train our officers to respond to mental health calls. So if they get a call from 911 and it's involving someone with a mental health emergency, we're trained. Most of our officers are trained, and we're still working to get more trained on what to do, how to handle it. So you can always call 911, but don't keep suicide warning signs a secret. We don't want to miss the chance to intervene. And if it's you that are experiencing them, talk to someone. So making symptoms better. It feels really hopeless. You feel really alone sometimes when you're experiencing these things and get in a really dark place. But you can your symptoms can get better. So what do you think happens when people don't get treatment for the symptoms of a mental health condition? Anyone? Well, I'll tell you then. Symptoms get worse, relationships get worse. A lot of times alcohol and drugs come into the equation. But the good news is mental health conditions are treatable. It's not always a one fit for all. Sometimes it's a cocktail, of medication or therapy or meditation. It's all in where it works personally for that person. But there's help, there is hope, treatment is available, and the earlier, the better. Think about somebody who has chronic back pain. It's severe enough to impact their daily life. To feel better, they may take medicine. They might do massage therapy or acupuncture. There are many different ways to treat the pain. They just have to find what works for them. The same is true for mental health conditions. Let's talk briefly about treatment options.
It's really important to remember there are a lot of treatment options available. So if you try one and you might not really like it, it's not a bad thing to move on and try another one. One option is medication, which works differently for everyone. Medication may really help your friend, might not really help you. And the same goes for therapy. Some people really like one-on-one therapy. Other people really like group therapy. One-on-one therapy has been a huge part of my recovery, and it was actually a huge part of my life even before I was diagnosed. And it's always helped me to talk to someone who is not part of my day-to-day life and who can just help me straightforwardly and only talk about me.
So those are, I think we talked about that. It's a personal thing. For everyone, it works differently. And these are just some things that will help. It helps everybody, let alone someone who has an active mental health condition. But getting enough sleep, exercising and eating healthy, writing, so journaling, blog, or listen to music, getting involved. I know that sounds so counterintuitive because when you're going through a hard time, what do you want? You don't want to be around people. I don't know about you, but when I get down, I'm like, I just want to be by myself. I don't want to really talk. But the opposite is true, and it's so true. And it's hard to know it until you experience it. But by being around other people, it really helps you move forward and move through what you're experiencing. Isolation is one of the worst things you can do. These strategies are key to improving and maintaining your mental health. I don't know, can you see these? Can you see the words on here? Probably not, with the way, okay. So people can succeed. Success is different to every person. It depends on where you are. What are you living with? For some people, it's just getting up every day, you know. For other people, I'll pick one of these. Success to me is managing my symptoms and helping others. I'm on the honor roll at the #1 public university in the U.S. I'm really proud of myself. I'm currently in a really good place. And then down here in the corner, she says, it just feels so, so good. She just feels good, finally, you know. So that's her success. Everybody's is different. So how can you help a friend? We talked about it a little bit. Recognizing the warning signs and share your concerns with them. So uncomfortable, but so necessary is to share your concerns with someone when you see them in a position that you're not comfortable with. It's so uncomfortable, but have those conversations with people. Encourage your friend to talk to a trusted adult if it's a child. Share resources and support and information. Out on our table, on the our NAMI table, there is a youth and young adult helpline that NAMI has. There's a QR code on our table that we have available. If you're a teen or a young adult, you can chat, text. There's one for adults too. So just go to NAMI.org and you will get the number for the helpline. Or call 988. We already talked about that. And so include folks in your social plans. Help them to stay positive. Encourage them to follow their treatment plan. Check in regularly and listen and offer support.
I really do believe that the more we change the conversation in mental health to also be representative of different communities and diverse communities, the more we're able to get other people to speak up. I know that when I started speaking up about my mental health, I saw other family members speak up about their own mental health. So it was good to see how a conversation can have an impact to change the stigma and to dismantle it within either your family, within your friend group.
Okay, so circling back, we want to reduce stigma and take action. So talk about mental health with friends and family. Share links to resources on social media. Don't bully, stereotype, or label others. Call people out if they're stigmatizing language. Wear lime green to support, like a ribbon, wristband. Lime green is for mental health awareness. And you can learn more at NAMI.org. NAMI.org is an awesome website for you to learn anything and everything you want to know about mental illness. I will have to say that our website is pretty awesome too, so check us out. It's NAMIMCC.org. And also we have a Facebook, so if you want to know what we're up to or how you can get involved, we're always looking for volunteers. We have support groups, we have education classes. You'll find all of that on our website. But remember, mental health conditions are medical conditions. It's not a choice. It's not anyone's fault. And you're not alone. Recovery is possible. There is hope. And you have the power to end the silence. And the next thing that we have is something very special, because we have Emily here who is going to be brave and talk about her own personal journey with mental illness and what's worked well for her. So Emily, if you want to come on up. Yes. Very much.
Is it on now? Okay. There we go. My name is Emily. I'm 19, and I am an esthetician and nail tech. But I also love to be outdoors and love thrifting, and I have a severe Starbucks addiction. So, this is my story. This is my point of view from what I've struggled with all my life. Around 10 years old, my parents and I realized that there was something unique about me. In 4th grade, I couldn't grasp normal math homework or spelling sheets without having a meltdown, which then we realized I was having a panic attack. In 5th grade, we got me diagnosed, and I have a severe anxiety disorder. And I got put on Buspar. That worked for a few years, but we've had to tweak it through the years for my personal use, if that makes sense. And then everything was going smoother for me in school. I could do everything I was supposed to do until about 8th grade. I was severely bullied by those who I called my friends. They would make inside jokes about me that I later found out were actually made to make fun of me, and they had me saying the joke with them. They would pass a phone around the table and text me everything that they didn't like about me. They didn't include me in things because I had anxiety and I could have a panic attack, which was a complete and total lie. They were just looking for an excuse not to include me. On my 13th birthday, I specifically remember I got Tim Hortons, which was something that I didn't get all the time. It was a special treat for me. They took it out of my hands and ran and ate it all. A few days later, I had a party and they all came, but they said, I just want to hang out with everyone else and not come for Emily. Over time, this had a severe effect on me. I started self-harming and having suicidal thoughts to the point where I attempted twice. I was so angry with God because why would he let this happen to me? But I thank God every day that they did not work. After I got the help that I needed and got put on the right medication and started to go to therapy weekly. It was a hard time for me, and it but it did get better and easier. I found coping through painting and making my room more cozy really helped me. Things are still not perfect for me and I still struggle, but having my times and still have my times where I'm not okay. But your story is not over. My dad promised me when I was 13 if I made it through, we would get matching survivor tattoos on my 18th birthday. If I didn't get better, I wouldn't be able to stand here and show you our tattoo. My tattoo is right here. The semicolon represents hope and the decision to continue one's life story rather than give in or despair or ending it. It represents a pause, but not an ending. I believe there is beauty everywhere. You just have to look for it. Thank you.
Great job, Emily. Thank you so much. She's very brave to tell her story. Thank you.
So again, thank you guys for coming out tonight. There's there's more than two, but there's two definitely prominent reasons we want to do this, and thankful that you guys are here. One is for those who need to hear the message because they're going through struggles themselves or going through different challenges themselves. Like Jennifer was talking about earlier, the earlier that you say, can we talk, the better. If I compare it to a lot of the work that Aspire Ministries, one of our partners here tonight, it seems that usually you get a call in crisis when the electric bill is about to be shut off in 2 hours, where it becomes a very big crisis in someone's life because they're waiting till the last minute. I can do this by myself. I have control over this. I got to put on my big boy pants. That's not how we're created. So the earlier you ask for help, the better, and it's good to know these tools. And the other reason is because whatever's invested into us has now been invested to us to invest into others. And I know I was just listening not too long ago. I wasn't planning on talking about it, so I didn't get to look at the guy's name, but there's a pretty popular atheist advocate out there that is writing quite a bit about how badly the church is needed in our country. Not because he believes in the truth of Jesus Christ, but because we are best structured to be able to bring hope and to bring help and to bring relationships into areas where there's darkness. And so if an atheist can say that, then we know that if we bring Jesus Christ to the mix, then we can do that. So now we have the opportunity to move forward, and having those kind of relationships really matter.